Hi, I'm Deriv'era. Space Rangers 2 is a cool, well-known game, actually 3 games because of the add-ons released as separate versions of the title. Top-down space sandbox where you and only you decide what to do, where to fly, how to earn money and to follow or ignore the main goal of the game. You can abandon participating in destruction of the global enemy and game will attempt to do it by itself without you. I played it many times and I consider Space Rangers as one of my favorite franchises, but have you ever heard about the first game? Well, it exists and I'm going to install and play it. It wasn't so easy to get this disc because First Rangers barely left Russia, where it was originally made. The story behind it is an inspiring indie game development story. Yes, First Space Rangers is an indie game made by only 3 people. It was initially intended to become a game with minimal graphics, at least it was planned so by the author Dmitry Gusarov. That's how he made his previous project, The General. Dmitry is from Vladivostok, a Russian city close to Japan. Very cold city even if it is in southern region of Russia on the east. That's important to consider because in Russia, the farther you go from Moscow, lower the salaries you get aside from some industrial cities with oil where good salaries make you. Usual Russian far east is definitely not famous for being rich. Well, they are rich, but the wrong people hold all of the money, let's put it this way. Technology spreads slower over there than to around the capital, and people can barely afford gaming PCs, especially in 1999 when the development of Space Rangers has started. In the early months of development, Dmitry met Alexei Dubovoy, and this man immediately liked the idea of Space Rangers. Even more, he insisted to hire an artist to make this game into a real graphical game. And text-based nature became an optional part of the gameplay where some planetary missions require you to solve text quests, including prison. Well, I've never been a fan of text quests, and I didn't enjoy this part of Space Rangers, so big thanks to Alexei. They found Alexander Yazinin, who became part of the team and made the majority of the visuals. Music and sound were made by the community of game developers and family members. And the major contributor to the success of the game inside Russia wasn't the game itself, actually it was how undemanding it was for the PCs of players. All you need to play it is Pentium 2 and 64 MB of RAM as an optimal configuration in 2002. For regional parts of Russia it was very important because again people barely had PCs, not even saying about good PCs, and majority of people played at PC clubs. But to be fair, I tried running it on my Pentium M, that is Pentium 3 for laptops, and it didn't work perfectly. On the other side, our perception of lags was different back in the days. I remember myself playing shooters at 50 FPS cause my Radeon 9100 barely ran anything decent like Fear or PsyOps, but I still played them. Unsure if anyone even remember PsyOps from Midway Games, but I remember how much it lagged in my PC. So I will be playing in Russian. Well, I speak 4 languages, including Russian, all of them badly. Sometimes I regret knowing Russian because the most unhinged commands to my stuff are usually written in Russian. Historically, Space Rangers get awful translations to English. I would prefer to play in Russia just to understand the text better. I played original Space Rangers 2 in English and translation is terrible, the lowest standards possible with tons of mistakes. Just listen to this music. It is simply wonderful. Despite how the game was made, it has one of the best soundtracks. I just can't add anything to it. It perfectly reflects the mood of the game. You're allowed to choose between all 5 races. The game has RPG elements after all. Character type starting options are trader, pirate or warrior. They may change during the gameplay based on your actions. I will be playing on expert mode cause game is relatively easy, or I just completed it more than 10 times. I like to play spelling. You sadly can't choose how you look. There is only one face for each race. Game loads instantly because, well, my Windows XP runs from SSD. Spellings as a nation give me 90 credits and tell me to go to the scientific station for briefing where we will find out the basic information about our shared global enemy, Kli's Sons. Gallians back in the days enjoyed the expanse over the galaxy and heavy use of the technologies they were able to come up with. Their ambitions brought them to develop technology allowing to visit a different spiral galaxy arm. For centuries, it was considered impossible, because for hyperjumps you needed supermassive objects, like stars. Between spiral galaxy arms there are endless parsecs of nothingness. One of the Galilean scientists came up with an idea of a hyperspace bubble that is able to travel regardless of the masses around the universe and maintain stability. This allows to travel to any part of the galaxy. Soon after, he proved it working. Galileans started the colonization. In the other arm of the galaxy, they found out a planetary system with 3 planets suitable for life, and gave a name Elton to the local star. This means sister in Galilean. This system became the base for colonization of this part of the space. They were very successful until they didn't. One of their intelligence fleets met Machpelah. If you wonder, could it be a biblical name? Well, Machpelah is a cave of the patriarchs, one of the most sacred sites on Earth according to Jewish websites. Never heard of it until making this video and googling this information, but sounds very sacred. Machpelah is a huge sentient spaceship, product of non-biological evolution. She is official that Machpelah is she, so I will refer to her in female gender, because in Russian you don't call female entities it, you call them she, even if it's not a human. And I agree with this more than with the feminization of everything in English language. She travels between stars, observing them, doing her things with her fleet, enjoying herself, and Galileans tried to research Machpelah, and the Galilean fleet got destroyed pretty fast, but managed to send the information about this encounter to Elton. Galileans tried to stop Machpelah that started its movement to the Galilean planets, but it was barely possible because of the unknown weapons Machpelah used. Galilean ships simply had no protection against it. When Machpelah reached the planets, she started to destroy all the life on them. A lot of refugees came to Elton waiting for the evacuation from this arm of the galaxy back to the home, but Galactic Council was too afraid to allow it. They were afraid that Machpelah might be able to track the jump and come to our native space. Galileans used gravitational collapse of the whole system to destroy Machpelah, so they killed everything including themselves. I like the only dialogue option here. Probably it went up quite well. To be fair, it's very hard to translate this game to English because it's full of very native Russian slang. You can't just simply bring it to English as it is, but it doesn't excuse how badly Space Rangers are usually translated. By the way, if you look closer to the model of fan leader of this scientific station, you will notice how many glitches, shadows and animation has. It's common in the first game. If I remember correctly, it was times of 3ds Max 4. I've started to learn 3D myself with this thing. Yeah, it took off greatly, says Fan. So Galileans experienced shock and trauma, and it changes their whole history. They decided to avoid going into deep space and just be calm and sit on their planets, because wisdom is in patience and in temperance. To understand this, you need just one gravitational collapse of the entire planetary system, I assume. Technology of bubbles got prohibited and became a secret. A lot of Galilean scientists died during the explosion, so it was a huge blow to their science as well. In the world of Space Rangers, Galileans usually come up first with new technologies, and fans follow them and make these technologies usable. Humans are money people, they came up with credits, also with business centers in the second game. Pelings are just trolls, also pirates cause they are cold-blooded reptiles. And they have Zukalak, the best intelligence agency in the universe, that they used to steal secrets. That's how they get new technologies. Maloks are big, get the technologies last, and represent military. Thinking that they are just big and stupid is wrong. They might be simple, but they have scientists, and their scientists played the key role in Space Rangers 2 with the ability to make yourself a dominator and early end the game. Meanwhile, our fan friend tells us that no one knows how Clisans got to our part of the galaxy. The later part of the dialogue is just talks about how to fight Clisans, and now we are finally free to go. Also, I'm on the news. The game is unique in many aspects. You may think that it plays and feels similar to the second game, and I'll argue it's only the visible layer. First of all, the most unique and annoying feature of the game is you don't get experience from killing Clisans. But it's still an RPG. Killing Clisans only raises your military rank, but you still have skills. You get experience by delivering protoplasm to the Rangers centers. Protoplasm appears when you shoot into Clisans, it's their blood. It forces you to make sure you can deliver as many tons of goods as possible. It's crucial, because you really want to get at least basic skills in piloting and shooting. Without them, you won't be able to kill anyone. On one downside, you don't need to fight to get experience. Just go together with military and gather as much protoplasm as possible and deliver it to the ranger centers. On the other side, you would probably prefer to gather Klisan's equipment to make money and buy new equipment for your spaceship. So you need to find a balance, or a ship with a really big hull to gather everything. Maybe sacrifice some firepower. For example, I never buy a scanner because you always see how much hull durability is left on enemies. In the second game, to see this value, you are required to have a scanner. In other words, the ranger stations might be even more important than scientific station where you upgrade your equipment. And for Klisan parts on scientific stations, you don't get additional money in comparison how it was done in the second game. You just boost the scientific performance to find a way to defeat Machpella. And the balance of universe is entirely different and it shapes your actions. For example, piracy is much more profitable here than in later games. Piracy gives you real money. If you need to repair your expensive ship, it's sometimes enough to do some shots into a single trader and you already can fix your ship or even buy some equipment. In second game, piracy was nerfed a lot. Since there are not much value to sell Klisan parts to scientific stations, you sometimes don't even bother to pick them up, only the expensive ones, and bring them to the nearby planet. I think it's worth it always to bring them to the scientific stations only if your goal is to hit the highest score in the game. Because faster you finish the game, more completion time points will be added to the final score. Since it's a sandbox, replayability is quite high, so big chances are you may try to hit the highest score after first playthrough. Anyway, let me list some other differences between first and the second games. When you do a hyper jump, you see a field of supermassive objects. It represents the idea of how fast travel principles work in this universe. There are safe and unsafe routes, and you guessed it right if thought that unsafe routes lead you to arcade battles. In second game, you run into arcade battles only inside black holes, but here, as many as you want, just jump between systems. But only black hole ones provide you with the artifacts. Between systems, arcade battles just give you junk equipment, and for some reason hyperspace over here has minerals, so you can gather minerals as well. You literally can make early hyperspace jumps into your source of income. Can't say I use it a lot, but if your ship is empty, it's a quick credit. Another difference is a feature that is disabled in the settings of the second game. This feature became optional in the later games, but is mandatory in the first one. It is unskippable next turn. That's the thing I probably hate the most, and I wish there was a patch just to remove it. I hate it so much it brings me the idea to disassemble this game, since it's abandonware anyway, and just fix this one particular issue or make it optional. And maybe add Full HD support, rewrite the engine to OpenGL and release it for Linux as well as Windows. I'll do this only based on successful Kickstarter campaign. I don't want to do it in my free time, but if you are interested, write a comment. Unskippable next turn means that if you press space or a button to stop the turn, in the middle of the current turn, it will still play the next turn and stop only after it. The only way to do exactly one turn is to stop immediately at the start of the turn. I'm not sure who considered this as a good idea, but this will from time to time kill you and ruin your plans. Especially when you do piracy. You may encounter that on the next turn you'll destroy a transporter that you do the robbery against, press space, but the next turn still happens, poor guy dies, and now the whole planetary system hates you. Military ships take off the planets to hunt you down. It's just weird. From smaller different stuff in the game, military doesn't inform you about the dates of the military operations. News tell you that it will happen, and military attacks the system as soon as all the military ships get to the striking point. Half of the time they don't even inform you about the attacks. They still sometimes don't announce military strikes in the second game, but it happens noticeably less. And the mood overall is a big difference. You can argue that Space Rangers 2 has a lot of dark humor, but first game is just a game from Vladivostok. Take a look on my favorite loading screen among all the games I know. I think it's simple, dark and genius. Overall game feels much darker. Well, it has been created exclusively for Russian gamers and dark reality of Russia. I think black humor games, especially in 2000s, peaked in Russia for a reason. I think black humor games, especially in 2000s, peaked in Russia adventure for a reason. There is a turning point in the story when you visit a pirate station with a human leader with no hand. He offers you to tell a story about his lost hand for 500 credits. You joke that he probably lost it in a battle over an alcohol, but actually if you refuse to pay 500 credits, then you won't be able to kill a hidden boss. Because to kill him you need to know the full story, or in other words, 500 credits opens up a dialogue option in the future. This guy served at Black Salamander, part of Pelling's military fleet, together with the Rechihan. Back in the days, Rechihan was an officer and one of the best officers in the universe. He hoped to become an admiral, but political intrigues from the side of his enemies prevented him. Mostly because Rechihan was too good, and because of Pelling's history, they were afraid he will commit a coup if he gets this rank. Rechihan left the fleet cause he tended to accept everything or nothing, no in between. Zuhalak, Pelling's intelligence agency, immediately offered him a new job opportunity. I just imagine job listings of Zuhalak on LinkedIn and how they search for people and their HRs writing something like, "Hey, my name is Peshkiska, wanna spy on galleons with us? It's gonna be fun." Peshkiska is the real Pelling's name, by the way. Rechihan accepted and very fast understood how the things work and started to collect galleons and fans' secrets. But because of how he was treated before, it left some trauma. He stopped thinking about his government and his own race. Instead, he thought only about his own interests. He waited for a chance to change everything for himself, and he got this chance. His people found out that on one of the Gallian moons there is an ancient base that no one visited for centuries. Gallians didn't remember themselves what secrets this base held. Well, if you preserve secrets really well, everyone forgets what the secrets are. Security existed but more as part of a tradition because the base was in the heart of the Gallian space. No one expected enemies to attack over there. Rechihan not only attacked, but successfully raided the base, and no one found out who it really was. Archive had a documentation about hyperspace bubble technology. You can imagine how lucrative was the ability to travel the galaxy ignoring masses and distances for him. And Rechihan decided that he won't give this technology to Pellings. He decided to reproduce the technology himself. Started to gather the team and equipment. Human that tells us this story joined Rechihan as well. Zuhalak became suspicious about his actions. Well, they are the best intelligence agency in the galaxy after all. They have started inner investigation, but when they found out what Rechihan was up to, he already finished the bubble and did a jump together with the whole base and military ships. They've started to pirate like crazy, attacking civilian ships, stations, everything they could reach, and they could reach everything. The moment military arrived, the pirates would just disappear into hyperspace. With time, they built a huge fleet with both pirates and ex-military. Rechihan was the only person who could hold all of these people together. He was announced as the terrorist #1 in the whole galaxy. All 5 galactic civilizations started to hunt him down. Military ships scouted everywhere with the best scanners they had. Escorts followed every even small civilian vessel. Transport traps started to appear. Pirates attack a group of defenseless transport, but they appear to be military with huge cannons. Human telling us this story hit such trap, and pirates lost half of the fleet after taking this bait. This human spaceship got destroyed as well. 5 pirates, including him, escaped in a pod and drifted in the space for 3 months. They ate 2 of them in the process and started to eat this pirate as well, and that's how he lost his hand. His grove was saved by a human spaceship. They simply said that they are victims of a pirate attack. They were trusted with this, and in the end, this human started to seek for a job, but no one needed a disabled person. That's how he ended up on the pirate station. News announced that Rechihan died in a battle, and some operatives even got their medals, but after some time, Rechihan appeared again because it's hard to bring down such people. And then we both, together with our friend, look at news where they mention Rechihan's attacking civilian ships. So I will briefly give you another spoiler you will find out in the future. The way for Rechihan to solve the military problem hunting him down was to lure Mahpella into our space. You have few options on how to beat Mahpella. First and obvious one, you can destroy her. I think you even can beat her on extreme difficulty if you build the best spaceship in the universe. But either way would be just to bring Klisan parts to the scientific station and get communication device installed into your brain. You also need to pay for it, cause Science is expensive. Trust me, it's very real. Since I have my small lab where I do different stuff, it always requires money investments. And all you need to do with this communication device is to find Machpella and describe the situation. Machpella perceives all 5 races as a disease that is infecting spaceships. Because she thinks that spaceships are actually the space animals of some sorts, similar to her and her fleet, and these space animals get infected on the planets. So if you opened up the full story during your gameplay, you can make an offer to Machpella, an offer to attack Rachihan in hyperspace. And if you choose so, arcade battle in hyperspace starts. After killing Rachihan, you will be offered a choice again, to kill Machpella or let her live. In hyperspace, she is much more simple to destroy than outside of it, so you have a chance. This chance highly depends on your weapons of choice. If it sucks in hyperspace, then you will have problems. Atomic Vision is probably the best one over here, because it shoots long-range, self-guided sorts of energy rockets. Or Submeson Cannon that shoots a green ball that attacks enemies around by itself. They are the best weapons in hyperspace. And this is the end, your score is calculated, there are no fancy cutscenes in this game. Good thing is, the decision to destroy Machpella or not after killing Rachihan actually doesn't affect your score. So if you have sympathy for her, you can let her live. I like her, I have a sympathy. Maybe I even like her too much. She actually has a nice character in my opinion. But I still killed her because I like the arcade battles, especially against Machpella. I'm a bit cruel. Probably. Thankfully, she is just pixels, so I can let her live the next time we meet. Because my conclusion is positive, this is a great game. It works much better than original Space Rangers 2. Oh yes, I have English version of the original Space Rangers, and I played it right after the first game. It has soft locks, it has crashes, tons of bugs. An awful English translation. I think the second game was fixed only in Space Rangers 2 Reloaded add-on, that was released as a separate game. Basically, they sold you a fixed version with slight additions. Genius, Ubisoft of Russia. Just imagine spending half a game's year just searching for a HAL with all the slots open, because it has no parametric search. It was added later in Reloaded. 180 in-game turns to manually find a good spaceship by luck, traveling from planet to planet. Original Space Rangers 2 was a terrible game. Search by name in first Space Rangers worked well because all slots on all spaceships were just always open. You even wasn't limited by only 4 artifacts. I would even add that I liked artifact system and approach to arcade battles more in the first Space Rangers. If you ask me what game I would prefer to have remake of, it will be the first Space Rangers, not Reloaded. And definitely not HD Steam version with Pirates Faction. To be fair, first game would have much more sense to have Pirates Faction. How Space Rangers 2 HD implemented pirates and their story is just terrible. If you want to support me, then you can just buy my PSP game that I also ported to PC. PC version is on Steam, PSP version is on itch.io, links in the description. This will help me to free up some time to make more videos. Thanks for watching, have a great week, bye.